What's up, guys? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of our videos. Also, make sure you follow us all over social media so you don't miss any of our content or show announcements. Let's get to the fun stuff, the one-on-one tournament. I think this is such an interesting concept and one that I want to get a little deeper into today. First of all, I want to shout out Napheesa Collier, who won the WNBA, or the Unrivaled tournament, the one-on-one tournament against a bunch of WNBA players. I was so impressed by her in the WNBA finals. I thought she was clearly the best player in that series. And then she dropped the bar after she won the one-on-one tournament where she said NBA players need to be willing to put their name on the line in a tournament like that. So someone needs to just like Photoshop a cigarette into Napheesa's mouth just so that she's just one of the coolest supers on the planet. And she just keeps showing that time and time again. But I wanted to try out this theoretical concept. So we're going to run a simulated tournament today. I chose 8 players, and I used a list randomizer for seeding. First of all, some preliminary stuff. I went based on the top 10 players in the league because I think that's more interesting. But in all likelihood, a guy like Jokic would not participate in this tournament. LeBron probably would not participate. You're going to see a lot more of guys like lower level players in the NBA, like a Kyrie Irving, like a James Harden, instead of like a Jokic or a LeBron. But I want to just, for the sake of like actually making it look closer to what the WNBA did, I wanted to do all the top players in the league. Okay. I went with make it, take it, meaning if you score, you get the ball back. That's generally the rule for one-on-one basketball around the world. And that's how the Unrivaled tournament went. And I went with no dribble limit, mimicking what the WNBA or the Unrivaled tournament did with the 7-second shot clock, which on that front, like on lower levels, like even high major D1 and like lower level pro hoops, you'll work on a dribble limit, like a 2 dribble limit or a 3 dribble limit, because you're practicing being efficient with movement. Why? Because there's only a few dozen players in the world who are good enough to just dribble the air out of the basketball without having it hurt their basketball team, right? Like most players need to be able to score quickly and efficiently as part of a 5-man context, right? But these guys, the guys who would be playing in this tournament, are absolutely in the group of guys who would regularly use lots of dribbles to get to their spots. So no dribble limit, 7-second shot clock, random list, top 10 players in the world, make it, take it. You guys get the drill. Here's how the order came out after I used the randomizer. So our number 1 seed is Nikola Jokic. 2 seed is Anthony Edwards. 3 seed is Giannis Antetokounmpo. The 4 seed is Luka Doncic. The 5 seed is Jayson Tatum. The 6 seed is Kevin Durant. The 7 seed is LeBron James. And the 8 seed is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So our 1 versus 8 is Jokic versus SGA. I think Jokic takes this matchup relatively easily. I think he just plays back off of SGA and tries to bait him into jump shots. And as long as he doesn't literally make 6 mid-range jump shots in a row, Jokic will get the ball. And Shai shoots 54% on jumpers inside of 17 feet, but he's probably not going to go 6 for 6. So Jokic is going to get the ball. Once Jokic gets the ball, Shai has like quite literally no way of stopping him from getting just a bunch of layups in a row. Like there's no variance, no chance for a miss there. So I think Jokic advances relatively easily against SGA. Our 4 versus 5 matchup, Luka Doncic versus Jayson Tatum. This is a much closer matchup in my opinion. Like Luka would basically have to concede pull-up jump shots to Tatum, because if he plays up on him, he'll get blown by just constantly for layups. I mean, we saw that a dozen times in the NBA Finals, right? But we also saw Luka repeatedly cook Jayson Tatum one-on-one in the finals. He's too strong for Tatum, and once he gets an angle, he can just work closer to the rim and give him issues. I'm going to go with Luka here slightly. I think Tatum's value is in his versatility, but I just think Luka is a more gifted one-on-one scorer who would be able to work Tatum closer to the rim for higher percentage shots. And Tatum, as far as his jump shooting goes off the dribble, he's actually a low field goal percentage guy. He's a high effective field goal percentage guy because he takes a lot of pull-up threes, but he will miss pull-up jump shots. And Luka's going to force him into some misses by playing the drive more and forcing him to shoot. I think it would be a very close game, but I think Luka is just a more gifted, craftier one-on-one scorer, a much more reliable shot maker when he gets like into that short to mid-range area. So I would go with Luka advancing in that 4-5 matchup. Our 2 versus 7, Anthony Edwards versus LeBron James. I think Ant takes this one. With LeBron in his prime, he would have been able to match Ant's athleticism in a way that would have allowed LeBron's size to carry the day. But there are 2 reasons why I'd take Ant at this point with LeBron at age 40. One, Ant has put all defenders in the league into a bind because he's become one of the best three-point shooters in the league. You basically have to choose between taking away the drive or conceding the jumper, or taking away the drive and conceding the jumper, or taking away the jumper and conceding the drive. Ant would get great looks every single possession. And then two, Ant is a bad defender in a lot of ways. Like, he's really bad at navigating screens. He loses shooters and rebounders off ball constantly. But he's absolutely awesome at one thing on defense, and that's one-on-one defense. He's one of the most laterally quick players in the league, so you're not going to go around him. You're going to have to go through him. And he's an absolute fire hydrant. It's basically impossible to go through him unless you're absolutely massive. And for the record, LeBron's a big dude. He would try to bully Ant. He would win some of those battles, but I think Ant would also win some of those battles. And then on the other end, I think LeBron basically has to concede jump shots to him, and Ant's one of the best jump shooters in the league. So to be clear, I would take prime LeBron over Ant, but in this format, in the year 2026, I'm going to take Ant to advance in a somewhat close game. 3 versus 6, Kevin Durant versus Giannis Antetokounmpo. This is a very interesting matchup. On the one hand, this is a terrible format for Giannis because he's the opposite of Ant in that, like, he has very little in the way of shot making. If guys actually take away the drive and make him make shots over the top, that's not a strength of his. And while Ant is great on the ball, but terrible at everything else on defense, Giannis is great at everything else on defense, but he can struggle a little bit guarding in space. He's especially struggled guarding KD over the years because KD knows how to get him up out of his stance with hesitation dribbles or get him leaning one way before crossing over and getting dribble penetration. It's a matchup that KD's had a lot of success against. But on the flip side, Giannis is probably the best power player in the league, not named Jokic. And KD can struggle with power sometimes. We just talked the other day about how Jaren Jackson gave him some issues by ducking in the post in that game that they lost to Memphis the other night. So I actually do think Giannis would give KD some issues when Giannis had the ball. But KD does have the length to bother Giannis around the rim a bit. We've even seen skinnier, longer players like Wemby give Giannis some issues. Now, Wemby obviously a different challenge than KD, but I do think KD would win some of those battles. And I just think KD would do more damage to Giannis when KD has the ball than Giannis would do to KD in return. So I have KD advancing in a close game. Our second round, our 1 versus 4 matchup, Nikola Jokic versus Luka Doncic. I actually view both of these guys as kind of similar in this format in that they're two players that would both need to concede jump shots to faster players so that they don't give up dribble penetration and just basically hope they miss. And that on the other end, they both have massive strength advantages and short-range shot-making advantages that they could exploit to score time and time again close to the rim. But Jokic is just so much bigger than Luka. I think he'd be able to force Luka into tougher shots further from the rim. I think Luka would be more susceptible to variance in this matchup. And I still think Jokic can bully Luka really close to the rim. So I have Jokic advancing cleanly here to the championship. Our 2 versus 6 matchup, Anthony Edwards versus Kevin Durant. This would be an epic matchup. I talked earlier about Ant's ability to be a top-tier downhill threat while also a top-tier shooting threat and how that makes players make a decision. But Kevin Durant has top-tier length. That gives him the best ability out of any player on this list to give space to contain the drive while also having the length to contest pull-up jump shots. This is a big part of why Kevin Durant is consistently one of the very best ISO defenders in the league. This year, players are shooting just 31% field goal percentage against KD and ISO. Last year, 32%. For 2 years in a row now, players are missing more than 2/3 of their shots against KD in one-on-one. And the volume is super low because players know better and don't really try KD. I think Ant would be able to stonewall KD a little bit when he's on defense and force KD into some mid-range jump shots, but KD's arguably the best mid-range jump shooter ever. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Even though I think Ant is excellent in this format, I think KD's kind of his kryptonite in this matchup. So I have KD advancing to the championship. And then our championship would be Nikola Jokic versus Kevin Durant. I think this is a super interesting one because I don't think either player has much of a chance at all to guard the other. KD is shooting a league best 58% on jump shots inside of 17 feet. It's 4% better than anyone in the league, including Shai. Jokic shoots 61% on hooks. So KD's mid-range jump shot is nearly as efficient as a Jokic hook. I also think KD would actually be able to get past Jokic a few times by using that hesitation dribble and some of those crossovers where Jokic would bite on trying to contest one of those short-range jump shots. Then on defense, now again, Jokic would bury KD a lot, but KD would have the length to get some good contests on Jokic around the rim. The trouble would be for KD, Jokic just completely bullying him right under the rim for layups. But that's where Kevin Durant's length could potentially force a miss. And again, I just think KD's game is just built for this format. He's always been one of the best defensive players in the league when he's engaged. And I think he's the best one-on-one offensive player in the history of the league. I think he barely beats Jokic, but I think KD beats Jokic with a combination of short jump shots, nasty counter moves, while just forcing Jokic into one or two misses closer to the rim that he would need to survive. And as I kind of zoom back out from this tournament, it makes sense. KD's the greatest one-on-one player of all time, in my opinion. So it would make sense that he would win this type of tournament. I'd have KD winning, and man, I really hope we get to see it next year.